welcome to the SciClones podcast. I am your extra special host, Annika.
And I am here as well. I am Dalton.
So today we're going to be talking about the 2020 movie The Empty Man, directed by David Pryor.
Which I know nothing else about him, I guess.
Me neither. I was doing a little looking. He apparently did a lot of documentaries about the making of other movies. Especially a lot of, like, David Fincher movies, like Gone Girl and Seven. And
I don't watch movies, so none of those mean anything to me, but I've heard of them.
Yeah, Gone Girl's like that one girl, she's crazy, and then
Does she go
Ben
gone?
Affleck. She does go gone, and Ben Affleck's like, oh, where'd she go?
She's gone! She's gone, girl!
The girl
and
is
then
gone.
Fades to black.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, but The Empty Man is, I guess, a comic book first, but apparently has nothing to do with the movie at all.
Yeah.
I was reading briefly about it, and it sounds like it was more of if Slender Man became a disease people get. That's what it sounded like. It was like almost like a pandemic, and it's nothing like the show at all. Also, the first 20 minutes of the show or the movie is nothing like the rest of the movie.
No, we've watched it twice, and the first time we were like, is this the right movie?
Yeah, because it's marketed as like an ex-cop investigates
supernatural events.
And the first whole 20 minutes, I believe it's 20 minutes of the 2-hour and 18-minute movie is a group of hikers in Bhutan in the 90s.
Yeah. So, we could just kind of go through the plot.
Yeah.
Start off. So the movie opens in 1995 in Bhutan, and 4 friends are out on a little backpacking trip, as one does in the 90s.
Yeah, and apparently they didn't look at the weather at all because a giant storm is coming, which I never understood that. I don't know if it's because of what happens, which is, they're hiking along, they go across a bridge, which is apparently important in this universe, and the one guy, Paul, because I think it was like Paul and Ruthie are together, and then their other 2 friends, Greg
and Fiona.
I don't know if they even say Fiona's name ever, so I don't
know. She's not.
That's just from the wiki, I guess.
Yeah.
But Paul hears a noise.
A whistling
that only he can hear, and he kind of goes towards it, and then falls into a crevasse, if you will. And they're kind of freaked out about that, and then they try to go find him, and he's just kind of sitting there, staring at the wall.
Yeah, and so he's like in this crevasse.
Which is a good word.
I like crevasse. Yeah.
Do you even know the joke you just made? Because I say that all the time.
Yes.
It's an alcohol.
Yes.
Okay.
Past the crevasse. Anyways, he's in this crevasse, sitting staring at the wall, and in the wall there's like this sort of mummified giant man skeleton with like a million fingers.
Yeah, and I don't know, I forget, there's a bunch of arms? Is it a bunch of arms coming down to like connect with his arms?
I don't actually, it's like big spider bone thingies.
But a big thing is like he has his like fingers like interlaced.
Yeah,
which
that's
like comes
a recurring motif.
Yeah, but...
So, Greg is like, yo, Paul, what's going on? And Paul's like, he says it like really quietly. He's like, if you touch me, you die.
Yeah, and Greg's like, he's about to touch him, and he's like, maybe, and then he ends up touching him.
And then he does.
And then Paul closes his eyes, he's like, oh, you shouldn't have touched me, now you're gonna die.
Yeah, so basically Paul's sort of like waking comatose, kind of. So they take him back to this shack, because there's like this big storm coming in, and they're trying to find help, because he seems physically healthy, but he's just not, he's just like in a vegetative state, sort of. And
apparently, I guess the comatose thing isn't really normal for Paul, but apparently he's had some other issues, so Greg's kind of very short with him.
Yeah, Greg's like, hey man, cut out all these cries for attention, like...
Yeah, so, and I forgot to say that, like, it starts with, like, day 1 at the very beginning. So, like, on day 2...
They're in this shack.
They're in the shack, and I can't remember if it's day 2 or day 3, where, like, Paul, like, we see a scene where Paul is, like, levitating over Ruthie, and
while she's sleeping.
While she's sleeping, and they do this really weird thing.
I hate it. I hate it.
And it's just, I don't know how to say... It's like whispering, but you can't hear anything, but it's very punctual.
Yes, it's like just the consonants.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
So he's like floating over her doing that. I think that maybe that's the end of day 2.
That might be the end of day 2. Well, because the end of day 2, Ruthie thinks that, so Fiona and Greg have gone off to like go get some water or whatever, And Ruthie thinks she sees somebody out in the snowstorm, and she goes outside, and there's like this tall figure in like black cloth or whatever. And
King Ramsay.
You gotta do
Return the slab or suffer the consequences.
Yeah, so and encourage the Cowardly Dog fans out there.
Thank you. That's all I could, because he is in like a big tattered robes and stuff.
Yes,
but there, I think they talk about it where it's like day one you hear the empty man.
Oh, we don't know that till later.
Oh, we don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyways, there's this big figure, and he runs at her, and she freaks out and runs inside, and then Greg and Fiona are knocking on the door. They're like, "Hey, what's going on?" She's like, "There's a guy out there. He was scary. He ran at me." So that's the end of day 2.
Mm-hmm. And then I think at the end of day 2 is when he's doing the levitating.
He's doing the horrible whispering.
Yeah, because then on the the beginning of day 3, he's gone.
Yeah, they wake up and Paul is gone. And so they follow his tracks out in the snowstorm, and he's sitting by the bridge where they walked over, and he's just sitting there, just like looking off in the distance. And that's where Greg's like, "Bro, it's not funny.
Yeah, it's
Stop
just,
it.
Yeah, stuff for getting attention, bro.
Yeah, bro, just because you're
What
mentally
is
ill,
the 90s?
Dude. Come on, dude."
Yeah, and then Ruthie stabs Greg and kills him.
Yeah.
And then stabs Fiona and kills her.
And then jumps off the cliff.
And then jumps off into the ravine.
Yeah.
And
Paul just sits there.
Yep.
And then we get the title card 20 minutes in.
Yeah, 20 minutes in. You think you're watching the wrong movie.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, okay, it is the empty man.
But then finally it gets to, I guess, the actual plot.
Yeah. So after the title card, we open in Missouri in 2018, and there's a shot of a bridge, and this rugged ex-detective cop man, James LaSombra, comes jogging over the bridge. And he's our main man. Yeah,
and then we see his day. He works at, or owns, it was never really clarified, what do you call it, like a self-defense store?
Like a security store,
yeah,
you
pawn
buy like
shop. Guns and pepper spray and cameras and things.
And he like goes and has a birthday meal at a sad Mexican restaurant by himself.
He has a coupon because it's his birthday.
Apparently.
And he eats it alone.
And it's kind of sad. Poor guy.
Yeah.
Because you come to find out that his wife and son were killed in a car accident, and so he's sort of sad and depressed and lonely about that.
As you do.
As one does when your wife and son die.
Yeah. And then the plot finally gets forward.
Yep.
And he just, shows up home. I guess it's his house, right?
Yeah, it's his house.
And, in the backyard. Does he have a pool? I just realized.
I think
is he surrounded by a pool?
Yeah, he has a pool. But it's, all gross
cool.
and stuff. I know,
yeah.
because he's depressed.
Who has a pool in Missouri?
I don't know. I don't know what it's like in Missouri. I've never been.
Awful. That's why it's called Misery.
Hey.
Anyways.
We might have...
Our one fan is from Missouri. He's like, hey.
Yeah.
Missouri's okay.
It's all right. I guess we're in Iowa.
Yeah.
So.
Well, way to dox us.
Okay, well.
We live at bleep, bleep, bleep.
Yeah, take a guess.
But, yeah, he finds Amanda, who is his neighbor, I think.
Yeah, his neighbor's daughter. She's 18.
Well, she's also his neighbor if she lives there.
Okay, yes. Anyways, she's young. But she's of legal age, but that doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter.
So they have a little chat, him and Amanda has all these weird ideas about, your thoughts aren't really your own, and they come from some other place, and we just receive the thoughts, and James is like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, and does she talk about the empty man there, or no?
I don't remember.
It's more of just, talking about, how thoughts aren't real, but what is real with thoughts?
But nothing is real except for your thoughts.
Exactly.
He's like, go home to your mom. So she does. And then the next day, I think it's the next day or whatever, her mom calls James, and Amanda has gone missing. And in the bathroom, written in blood on the mirror, is a phrase, "The empty man made me do it." The empty man made me do it.
The empty man, as we refer to him.
Yes.
But yeah, it's pretty much from there, it's kind of try to find Amanda. And the detectives show up and investigate things, and one of the big things they find is a bunch of stuff about James finds is about the Pontifex Institute or Society?
Pontifex Society, I think.
I can't remember if it's Institute. Oh, it's Institute.
Institute.
And finds something, a paper that says Tulpa, which
written on it.
I knew immediately what Tulpa is because I watched Supernatural.
He's a loser.
Yes, I am. And I've watched all of Supernatural, so I know a lot of these different monsters. And I knew from then, we had to double check it, but Tulpa is pretty much a entity from, like, thought form.
Yeah.
And, like, Supernatural, there's an episode where everyone thought this house was haunted because there was, like, an axe murderer there. So since everyone thought that was true, the axe murderer became a real ghost that was at that property because everyone thought that was a thing.
And I think that tulpas originally come from, like, Tibet, like, sort of Tibetan Buddhism.
Nope, comes from Supernatural.
Okay.
Supernatural made it up.
Supernatural made it up.
Yep, and then the Buddhists stole it.
Whoa! Okay, well, good to know. So yeah, basically, it's something that you think into existence. Mm-hmm. So James is like, interesting. The Pontifex Institute thing, kind of weird, kind of culty, you know. So then he goes to Amanda's school, because the detectives are kind of lame. They don't, like the actual police, they're like, she's probably all right.
Yeah, well, I think they were like, oh, she's 18. She can just leave. But it's like, also, there's like blood. I don't know if we said that the Empty Man Made Me Do It was written in blood.
In blood.
So...
And the detective's like, oh, do you have a pet? And she's like, no. He's like, oh, well, it's probably still fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So James is like doing a little snooping of his own because he and Amanda's mom have some sort of, we don't really know why yet, but they seem to be kind of close.
Yeah, a little bit more close than what neighbors should be.
Yeah.
And I guess it's also known that Amanda's father had passed away. So the detectives kind of talked to the mom about that, like if that's had an effect on her as her emotional state at the time and stuff.
But her mom says, like, no, she's all good. Like, she's been okay.
She's just a normal 18-year-old with a bowl cut.
Yeah, she does have a weird bowl cut. But, so... So James goes to her school and sort of, like, creepily sits outside the school.
Yeah,
he's like a grown man.
Sitting outside of a high school, looking for people, I guess.
Yeah, and he sees one of Amanda's friends, Devara, and she gets into the car and, like, has a smoke with him, which is a little weird.
Because, he offers her wait, no, I think she asked for a cigarette. She asked,
but it's, like, this high schooler sitting in this grown man's car smoking.
I just can imagine, like, that happened at your school. You'd be like, what is Devara doing in a Jeep Cherokee with some random dude smoking? He's like, he looks like he's 40. What the hell's going on?
That's when you call the police.
Exactly, and you get James Lasombra, former police detective. James Lasombra. Exactly.
Yeah. So Devara tells him that the other day, Amanda and some of her friends and Devara were, doing teenage stuff and walking on bridges.
And hanging out on bridges.
Hanging out and whatever. And dressing like it's 2003. But they did this little, like, empty man ritual thing, which is supposed to be, like, sort of a local, like, kid's tale.
Yeah, pretty much like Slenderman from the early 2010s.
But, so, the empty man ritual that they were doing on this bridge, so you go to a bridge after dark, and you get a bottle, and you blow into it, like...
That was actually really good. Because that's exactly what it sounds like.
And then you think really hard about the empty man. And then as the story goes, the first night you see him.
You hear him. Yep, because right after they do that, they hear like someone else on the other side of the bridge do the blowy thing too. Which is also a thing we didn't talk about, was that in Nepal? Bhutan, sorry. Paul has a little whistle.
Oh, yeah,
he's blowing into the whistle when Greg originally finds him. So that's, I guess, whistles, bottles, like whatever works the same.
Yeah.
But on the second night, you see him.
And on the third night,
I don't know if
he finds you.
Is that what they say? He finds you?
So the kids all do it on the bridge, and they're all like, this is, whatever. But Amanda's, like, really into it.
Yeah.
She, like, goes and sits down and does the bottle, and then she's like, the empty man. And it's really, like, uncomfortable.
And, like, it sounds like someone's on the other side of the bridge running at them, so it kind of freaks them all out.
Kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
It's kind of creepy.
Well, and then when Devara's sitting in the car, which this is day 2 for her, she sees through the window the same kind of figure that, I was going to say Heather. Her name's Heather. What's her name?
Oh,
Paul's girlfriend? Ruthie. Saw, King Ramsay, the man in Oz.
Standing for a second in the playground.
Yeah. Also, at the same time, there's, like, people, like, praying or, like, meditating outside the school.
Oh, it's the group of friends.
Oh, is it? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it was the same group of friends. So Devara, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, because Devara, like, tells James this, and she's like, it's just some stupid kid story. And then he's like, cool. And so she gets out and walks away. And as she does, she sees the other friends
I guess I never noticed that was the other friends.
They're all, like, sitting there, like, looking at her, like, creepily sitting.
Gotcha.
And so she's a little freaked out, and she leaves, because she wasn't really into the empty man thing.
Yeah.
She was like, whatever. So James then goes to the bridge and finds a bottle, and he sort of blows on it.
He kind of does the ritual without really knowing
it. So oopsies.
But yeah, while at the bridge, he discovers, I think there were 7 people at the bridge originally. Amanda, Devara, and then her 5 friends.
Yep. And
he ends up finding the 5 friends hung from the bottom of the bridge.
Yeah, all dead. And written in blood, it says, "The empty man made me do it."
Mm-hmm. And I guess we kind of jumped. He went around trying to find all her friends first. And then he went to the bridge to investigate it. Because he couldn't find any of those kids. The parents couldn't find them either. Then he found them at the bridge.
He finds them at the bridge. Yep. So then the police finally start getting into it, and they seal off the bridge and stuff. So James is obviously kind of freaked out and thinking more about this Pontifex Institute thing. So he decides to go and investigate the Pontifex Institute. So while he's going over there, we get another scene of Amanda getting nude.
Oh,
in
Devara.
Devara, my bad.
And I think this is right after those kids, he finds those kids.
Yeah. So,
and she stabs herself.
With scissors.
But it looks like...
She thinks that
the empty man's doing it.
Yeah, so you see, like, this figure stabbing her naked in the shower. But it's okay, because she's 18.
Yeah.
But then it, like, cuts, and you see she's just doing it to herself. She's doing it to herself. And then she writes, or somebody writes in blood on the floor, "The empty man made me do it."
Yeah, because James finds out about that before he leaves for the Pontifex Institute, because he's talking to the detectives in the police station right after.
Yeah.
And the detectives are kind of like, yo, we're a small town. Like, we have maybe 1 murder every, like, 5 years. We're not really, like, capable of investigating this kind of thing. So I think James kind of takes it as his own that he needs to figure this out.
Yeah. Plus, because the main detective's like, yeah, she got stabbed in the face by scissors. It was probably a suicide.
Yeah. And so it seems like a good way to do it, I guess, is stab yourself with scissors.
With scissors.
Yeah.
And so James, of course, being our protagonist, is like, I'm not buying it. So he goes and takes a trip to the Pontifex Institute.
But I think he also hears the empty man when he's at home on his first night.
Oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah, so he's in his bed, and he takes a depressants. So he has hard time sleeping as well. And he, on that first night, right after all the murders, or suicides, however you want to classify them, he hears something in his house. And as we know, the first night you hear him.
So you hear someone, like, walking around in his house. He's got a weird house.
It's a really weird setup, but, like, you can stand at the front door, and if he has his bedroom open, you can see directly into his bedroom.
Yeah.
But it's also, like, a platform. So you have to, like, you go in the house, you walk up, like, 4 stairs into a hallway.
In the bedroom.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can basically walk from the front door into his bedroom in a straight line.
Yeah, it's very weird.
It's very strange.
But it's a very good setup for what happens later.
And also, he dressed his nightclothes.
Oh, yeah, he dresses like an old-timey sailor.
Like a sailor, like his pajamas. He's a little button-up pants and, like,
he sleeps in, like, long johns, like classic long johns. It's great.
Yeah, it's really funny. And also, when he hears this noise, he, like, gets out of bed. And for a man who owns, like, a whole-ass security store...
His security sucks.
His security sucks, because he leaves his bedroom door open, and then his security weapon of choice is, like, a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Like, dude, get a gun.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's the first night or second night. He, like, turns on the light in the hallway, and the hallway light's there, but there's also a switch at the end, so he turns it on, and it gets switched off, and he just, like, shuts his door.
Yeah.
I believe that's the first night. It all kind of runs together, those instances, but...
Yeah.
But in the following morning is when he goes to the Pontifex Institute and kind of begins to snoop around.
Mm-hmm. So he attends a lecture by the leader of the Pontifex Institute, which is very culty, and the talk is all sort of, like, wishy-washy about, like, you stare into the abyss and it stares back, and
Yeah,
what does that mean?
The noosphere, which is like the sum of all knowledge.
He's like, if you repeat something enough, it becomes meaningless, so maybe that's the real meaning, is that it's meaningless.
There's a lot of things to do with like thoughts and what actually makes things real.
Yeah, now nothing is real except thoughts.
Yeah, and it's all explained by the actor who, you don't get it, but he's a very nerdy guy in the Dodgeball movie. Is the guy who's doing it. So the whole time, I just think of that because like his whole bit is like he always wear these sunglasses and or like these glasses, and you have to make him mad. So he has like a mail order bride and stuff. So they think he sees her in the crowd with like another guy, and he gets real mad and throws a dodgeball real well.
Oh, that's
so the whole time he's doing this very like in-depth, deep thought about what is knowledge, what is real. I'm just thinking of him getting mad and throwing dodgeballs with his little
other
glasses.
Life.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what he does after the Pontifex Institute.
Yeah.
Nice.
But we also find, I don't know why it's brought up a lot, but in the 40 minutes that he's at the Pontifex Institute, he brings up that he's from San Francisco like 7 times.
Yes.
Like
he's like, bro, don't give me all this bullshit. I grew up in San Francisco.
I know all this hippie stuff.
It's like, dude, relax, okay?
Yeah.
I should be like, yo, I'm from Greensboro, you know?
Like, you know me. I know this stuff.
Yeah, dude.
But I'm very bad at. I feel like you have to watch the movie to get more of the explanation of the different like noosphere and like what the Pontifex Institute believes, because it's kind of hard to understand.
It is.
It's almost like, yeah, you think about something, but does that make it real? Like he said, like repeat your name enough times, is it real? Because it's the name. But
yeah, it's kind of like they put in Chat GTP like cult rhetoric.
Yeah.
Thought.
Because after the big kind of lecture, James gets like a one-on-one meeting with him, and he's kind of giving the whole shindig about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's asking people if he knows Amanda, or if they know Amanda and stuff. And the leader guy was like, well, I hope you stick around longer this time, and says that to James.
Mm-hmm.
And James is like, I've never been here before.
And he's like, and then the leader's like, you just must have something about you.
Yeah.
So a little suspicious there.
Yeah.
So James is a little more snooping, and he talks to a guy who was at the meeting, and the guy tells him that Amanda is not there. She's at this retreat camp in the woods,
mm-hmm.
where they like do some sort of cult indoctrination thing to like bring her high up. He says that she's really like invested in this cult, and she's like rising the ranks.
Yeah.
So
that's after he gets kicked out for snooping more.
He does, yes.
He gets like in the back room, and there's like people at a little marker board chanting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then like they turn the lights on him, and he's like, "Oh, I must have took the wrong turn in Albuquerque." Ha ha ha. He doesn't say that, but that's pretty much what he does, and he gets kicked out.
He gets kicked out.
And then he meets, what does he call him? He calls him, because he's dressed like an old timey,
like Butch Cassidy.
Yeah,
or something.
because he's dressed like that. But then he goes to, which is the best. My favorite scene in the entire movie is this stupid throwaway scene where they have a map view, like a legit
cool.
map.
Yeah.
And they zoom in on it, and like the lines of the map perfectly form to the forest that he's driving into,
and like the roads.
Yeah, it's super good.
It is. That's like the best shot.
But yeah, that's really where he goes to this camp to, I guess, just find more information.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like the camp is my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
But
it's definitely like the most traditional horror part of the movie. It's real creepy.
Yeah, because he ends up finding a cabin, and I can't remember what happens first. Does he find the information?
So first he's going through these cabins that look abandoned, and there's folders. There's like file folders and that have like different people's names. And one of them, there's a red folder that has his name, and it's empty.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, that's real funny. Obviously, this cult is keeping tabs on him.
Yeah, but this is the same day he shows up.
Yes, it's the same day he shows up. So it's
and he drove all the way there.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, and he finds folders on Devara, Amanda, and then all of their friends as well.
Yep, with
and
like childhood photos and like all these really specific things. Then he finds these videotapes, the really weird and really creepy, and they say like manifestation
13, which I think there's also a folder associated with it, right?
Yeah.
And it's a red folder, which I thought was like very like the only folder that was red with James's,
Mm-hmm.
and the only thing of a red folder that we've seen otherwise is with this Manifestation 13.
So he plays the video, and it's like this weird black and white thing of, it's kind of confusing. These people like summon some sort of person.
Yeah, I don't know
thing
if there's a person that was already there
that got
and they
possessed.
summoned like Empty Man to get into his body or something. But the guy has like 6 fingers and like no hair, and his eyes are like piercing white in the thing.
Yeah, they look like animal eyes that glow in the light. You know?
He's like taking like his guts out and like painting like the shape that we've been seeing throughout the movie, which is, it looks like the same like kind of setup that Paul saw of the Empty Man with all skeleton. The arms and stuff.
So it's like a sitting man's silhouette.
Yeah, and we've seen it like in Amanda's room and an institute on their flyers, and now we're seeing it drawn in blood in this cabin. Mm-hmm. And also behind them the whole time is a teddy bear, which when he's sitting there, it looks up.
Oh, it's so creepy.
And then when he's done with the movie,
it's gone.
It is gone.
Yeah, but he doesn't see it move. It's just like the shot is looking at him, and
so
you
the
can see
audience
the teddy bear in the background. So that was really creepy. Teddy bear doesn't really like mean anything. It's just creepy. So he does some more snooping around the cabins, and then goes out and sees this like a bunch of people dancing around a fire, a bunch of cultists, we assume, and they see him, and they all start chasing him.
Yeah, so it's like they're normally dancing around the fire, and then like all of a sudden like his brain starts being weird, and the fire like goes into the sky, and everything starts spinning, and then like when he comes back to, like they're all looking at him,
and the fire's out.
Yeah,
like, completely out.
And he like takes a step back, and the whole herd takes a step forward.
Oh, it's creepy.
And then he takes another step, and they all step forward, and probably my favorite line in the whole entire movie, he just goes, "Yeah, no." And then you start sprinting.
Turns and runs.
And like they start sprinting across like this wetland to get to him, and like it's like a zombie movie for like a minute, because he like gets to his car and they're all like banging on it, and then like he gets on the road and he's driving and he just goes, "What the fuck? What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, as one would do.
But I just love how like he's supposed to be like this big shot like detective, like got fired, or I don't know if he gets fired. They don't explain it. They don't
say.
But he's just freaking out, like, what the fuck was that?
Because he got chased by a bunch of weird zombie cultists.
Yeah.
And had found a weird file about himself.
So he goes back, lets Nora know, I believe. This is when he tells Nora.
Yep, which is Amanda's mom.
And it's like, you need to go to a hotel. Things are getting weird.
Yep. Amanda's in this cult. They seem to know a lot about you guys.
Yeah, so he takes her to a hotel, and then he goes back home.
Well, first he goes to the police station.
Does he really?
Yeah, he takes the folders to the police station. It's not that important, but he gives them all to the police chief, and the police chief is like, yeah, if you, like, stole this evidence, we can't use it.
Oh, it's like, yeah, you can't. Yeah, it's not admissible in court if you trespass. You broke the law to get evidence.
Yeah.
So then he goes back home, takes his, antidepressants. He goes to sleep. And something that we forgot to talk about when he dreams before is he keeps having visions in his dreams about a chair that's kind of like in this like underground bunker hallway
just like
thing.
An empty chair in like this concrete
bunker.
And
it keeps happening when the 2 nights that we've seen him in his dreams, he's seen it.
Yeah.
But day 2, which means
you see him.
Exactly. So I can't remember what happens first, the teddy bear incident or him seeing him.
Oh, he sees it. Oh god, this is like this is the creepiest part of the movie. So he like hears something and he turns on the light in the hallway, and there's like a shape on the stairs. It's just like it could be like a coat or something.
Yeah.
And then it stands up and it starts to run at him. Oh, that's so
And
creepy.
he like takes out his bat to like try to beat it, and then it's gone.
It's gone.
So then he like, I think that's when he goes outside,
and yeah,
the teddy bear is on the doorstep.
Yeah.
And he just kind of picks it up and holds it like out, like if anyone's watching him, and he's like, real funny.
Yep.
This
and he
is
goes
great.
back inside.
Yeah, he goes back inside with his teddy bear, and he's like, I hate this. I want to go home.
I know. Poor James.
Poor
He's
James.
starting to kind of lose it at this point, too. Like,
yeah,
he's getting flashbacks of his wife and kid dying in a car crash.
Yeah.
And we find out throughout the movie that he has a bunch of guilt because he wasn't there when they died. We're not sure why he wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
But they're always like, oh, where were you? You know?
Yeah.
So he's plagued. He's besieged.
Yeah, we know that they die in a car accident, but we don't really know why And he keeps hearing like voices where it's like, why weren't you there?
Mm-hmm.
Why weren't you? And that's maybe partially like why he's taking the antidepressants and stuff like that.
Yeah. So along this time, we figure out that he and Amanda's mom were having an affair.
Oh, yeah.
And
so we do find out.
Yeah, we do find that out. And he was banging her mom at her dad's funeral when his wife and son died.
Yeah. And
like,
okay,
damn, dude.
I watched it. There's a part I didn't understand. So the I don't know if they ever say James' wife's name, but his son Henry. All we see is that she's driving on this bridge, and apparently he's playing with a coin, and he's like smashing it on his teeth. And it looked like maybe she's like freaking out about that, and like looks back to yell at him, and then a deer shows up and she swerves.
Yeah.
I watched the video to explain that a little bit more.
Yeah.
It sounds like he was choking on the coin. She turned around to like deal with him, saw the deer, swerved off the bridge, and died.
He was choking on the coin?
Yeah, because at first I thought he was like playing with the coin, and she's like, "Stop having fun!"
Yeah.
Because that's what it looks like.
There's a deer!
Yeah, and then never swerve for deer.
Interesting. That's why you don't
That's a real like knowledge, or like the core takeaway from this movie is don't swerve for deer.
Yeah, don't, especially not when you're on a bridge.
Yeah, and your son's
winter.
choking on a coin in the backseat.
And your husband is cheating on you at the person he's having affairs with husband's funeral.
Yeah.
So, anyways, all that goes to say, back in the present.
Yeah, James is freaking out.
He's freaking out.
He's having these hallucinations.
He's losing it.
He ends up following, what did he call him?
Butch
Cassidy and the Sundance Kids. Mm-hmm. To a hospital where they're kind of going to this hospital room and like worshiping a guy.
Yeah, so
we don't know much about what's going on.
He follows them, and they all go up into this hospital room where there's a guy like presumably like in a coma, like he's intubated and stuff lying there, and they all get down and start worshiping him. And when they leave, James kidnaps Butch Cassidy in broad daylight.
His name's Garrett, by the way.
Well, yeah. I didn't even know that. But he kidnaps him and takes him to an alley and is like, what the hell's going on? And
he kind of freaks out. He just kind of beats him up. And then he does like...
But Garrett's like...
villain Joker, like, ha ha ha.
He's like laughing while he's getting beat up.
Yeah, because he's like, he's the antenna and we're the receivers.
Mm-hmm. So this guy, Garrett claims that he's like channeling the Empty Man and they all receive messages.
And then, I guess, do the Empty Man's bidding? We don't really know what that means. Why? And I don't think we ever find out.
No. But basically, yeah, it's all still pretty vague and sort of the noosphere. Yeah. Yeah.
But James ends up going back to the hospital and kind of confronting the nurse, asking questions about
the nurse
who this
weird.
is. It's very weird. I think she's got to be a part of the Pontifex Institute, how weird she talks.
That's kind of a thing throughout the whole movie, like especially once you've seen it once. When you go back and look at it again, it's like, are they in on it?
Like, who's
in on it?
Yeah, is everybody in on it but James?
Yeah, because could be.
Could be.
So he's asking the nurse about this patient, and he's a John Doe. They don't know his name. He just was brought in, like, years and years ago. And we find out it's Paul.
Yeah.
So Paul has been in a coma since 1995, and he's at this hospital, and he's apparently channeling the Empty Man. And so that's why the cult has sort of converged around him.
Yeah. We skipped something super important.
Oh, no, what?
So we forget he goes back to the Pontifex Institute, and James finds a folder.
Oh, yeah.
With his name on it again, but under Manifestation 14.
Yes.
So it's a folder with pretty much his entire backstory.
His life.
It has like, but it's nothing, doesn't say him. It's like cop's family dies, but it's a different picture.
Yeah.
And it's like, it has the coupon from
his birthday.
The birthday and stuff. It has all this information about him, but it never says James Lasombra on any of it. It just has like background, almost like story arcs from his life, but not related to him.
Yeah. So it's sort of like they've scrapbooked his life together with other people.
Right. Yeah. And that's really important because what happens next is that when he goes into this room, Amanda's there. Yeah, in the hospital room, Amanda's there.
Yep. So Amanda is there. She's been gone this whole movie. And James is like, Amanda, I gotta tell your mom. So he calls her mom and he's like, hey, Nora, it's me. I found Amanda. And she's like, who is this?
Yeah, so she has no idea
who he is.
And he's freaking out, like convulsing and stuff. And Amanda's like, what high school did you go to? And she was like, whatever the high school was. And she's like, we made you.
So it turns out James is their tulpa.
Yeah, so they created this whole backstory for him to become the new vessel for the Empty Men. So a new Paul, because Paul is starting to die.
Because it takes a lot of strain, apparently.
Yeah, so last time there was 500-year gap between the previous vessel and Paul. So they created their own. And the manifestation that we saw in the cabin was their first attempt. But what they needed was, they found out they needed something with like grief and agony, but they also needed fear. Mm-hmm. So that's why they created this whole backstory of all this grief and fear and sadness, and made James to be the perfect vessel. And they made him, he's a tulpa.
So he's only like a few days old.
Yeah, he's only been alive for 3 days. So when that guy was like, oh, I'm glad you're back, it's because James was pretty much born at the Pontifex Institute 3 days before.
Yeah. As like he just like appears like as his full adult self and walks out with like all of his like memories about his life and everything.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know that.
He doesn't know that. And
so he freaking out.
Yeah, he's starting having like very like weird flashbacks. Like he remembers being in the chair. Oh, that's the thing. Yeah. In that folder, there's a picture of him in the chair he keeps seeing. Naked. Yeah. So that's in that folder, that Manifestation 14 folder that he sees.
So like the only thing that's actually him in that folder is the picture of him in the chair.
Yeah, everything else was backstory that Amanda made, which is weird because Amanda thought up this man having a weird sex thing with her
mom at her dad's funeral.
A little weird.
Kind of weird.
A little weird.
Also, I just think like what you were saying about the empty man needing like a vessel that's like empty but also full of like fear and sadness. Why couldn't it be like, oh, he needs somebody happy and joyful.
I know.
Full of love.
It's very...
Of course it has to be. Yeah. So, basically, James has this weird dream sequence, and then he shoots Paul. Like, in the hospital bed, he turns around to look at Paul, and Paul's eyes are open.
That's after, I believe, he is in the tunnels getting chased by the Empty Man.
Or he thinks
he
like
breaks,
a vision.
Yeah, he breaks through the plane of like our realm from whatever realm he's from, and he enters James the Sombra, which sounds bad, but that's what he does. So he literally goes through his mouth and becomes him.
Through his mouth,
and his eyes turn black
for a second,
and then I believe he has the vision of going to the hospital.
Yep. So then
killing Paul
back in the hospital. He shoots Paul,
and the blood splatter is actually the same shape they've been all seeing.
Mm-hmm, that sitting
man pose.
So then he seems to be back in the present, like the real world hospital. He turns around and walks out of the room, and the hospital staff all sort of walks up to him, and they all like look at him, and you think maybe for a second they're going to be like, what the hell, you just shot that man. But they all just like drop to their knees and start bowing to him. And it's like, he is now...
Yeah, he is now the Empty Man.
And then the movie ends.
Yeah. With literally, like, no explanation. Nope. Like, all we know is this Pontifex Institute's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
They took care of Paul. Don't know how they found Paul to begin with. Don't know... Like, apparently the Empty Man just lives in Bhutan. Just hangs out.
We don't never figure out what that skeleton man was.
I think that's him.
But, like, why is he a skeleton in Bhutan?
I don't know.
He's supposed to be, like, in the noosphere.
Because it's, like, a very Buddhist-centric... thing.
He didn't look very Buddhist to me.
Yeah, he's very evil. I don't know. I guess he's... I don't know. Like, I guess he's evil, I guess.
He's evil, but their whole thing is, like... It seems like he shouldn't be evil. Like, he should just be
he
this
just exists.
Thing, but he's definitely evil. Because he's killing people. And
yeah.
But I think the most fun part of the movie is seeing it once and then going back and being like, so were all of James's interactions with Nora, like... not real?
Yeah, because he does it. There's a scene where he goes back to his house after all this has happened, and it's empty. He never lived there.
So that's before he goes to the hospital.
No, that's after.
No, because
he shoots Paul and comes back to his house, and it's all empty.
No, because he shoots Paul and walks out of the hospital room, and that's the end.
Oh.
So he goes back to his house when he's freaking out, like when he has the vision of being chased by the empty man.
I think. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because then.
But I thought that vision happens when he meets Amanda in the hospital.
Yeah, so that vision happens. He's chased by the empty man, and then it's like he finds himself in his house, and then his bedroom door.
Oh, it's like
glows,
lights, and then he ends up in the hospital room.
Yeah,
yeah. So it's like every interaction he's ever had has been fake.
Yeah. So either it's like he never actually had those interactions, like with Amanda's mom, or the people he's interacted with are maybe part of the Institute.
Yeah, it's never really explained.
No.
Because, like, Nora seems like she doesn't know at all. So
yeah.
It might be like all his memories and all of his actions were predetermined, but it was just a way to explain to them, or explain to James his role.
Yeah, exactly.
As the vessel.
It seems like a lot of people were trying to put sort of subliminal, like when he was talking to the police chief was doing the interlacing fingers
right
thing.
That happens a lot where they're doing these interlacing finger things. You see a lot of that sitting man logo and stuff.
A lot of like there's a lot of little like subtle like tapping sounds,
yeah,
which I absolutely hate.
Yeah, and there's it's very weird because the weirdest one it's so weird. It's like, so James comes out of like there's that room, that big warehouse room where all the people are in like semicircle and chairs
at the Pontifex Institute.
At the Pontifex Institute, in front of like a marker board, and Amanda's there, and they're all blowing into the bottles, and James walks out from below, right? And he like makes a noise, and they're like, "Oh, is someone there?" But we see it as James. That was when James was there, looking for Amanda, snooping, and he's above, and like. Baby James, who just born, looks up at James from before, but Amanda wasn't there when James looked down, so it makes no sense.
Really confusing.
Because when he was there, he heard a metal crash, and James was like, "What was that?" But it was him when he was born from 3 days ago. But James is now.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't really make sense. It's like they try to make it be like Inception type, like whoa, but it's more just like, huh?
Yeah, because nothing's real or everything's real. We need to top the spin so we can figure out which one's real.
But overall, I liked it. It didn't get very good reviews. I think now it's sort of considered like a cult like a cult film.
Really?
But I think so. I think a lot of people liked it, but critically, it did not do well.
I think a lot of people have a complaint with how long it is. The first sequence could have been like 5 minutes instead of like 20 minutes of a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
What would you do? I guess we gave ratings for the book. What do you give a rating for the movie?
Probably 6.
I would say 6 too.
Yeah, it was okay.
And I can't tell if I liked it more this first or second time.
I think I liked it more the second.
I definitely viewed it differently. Because when I first watched it, I was like, James is the protagonist and you're following it from him. The second time I watched it, all I was trying to look for was like interactions or anything that would tell me like that would show that, oh, James is the Tulpa.
Yeah.
I didn't really see him as the main character anymore. I was just like, I'm trying to see where like any flaw, like holes in the story where James could have figured out he is the Tulpa or something. Tulpa.
Yeah. So it's confusing, but it has some creepy moments.
Yeah, I like it.
I did like it.
It's definitely not a horror.
No.
There's a couple scenes where there's horror. Yeah. Or like thriller, I guess. I don't know.
There was some really creepy parts. There's some really creepy parts.
But I feel like it's more of a, I don't know, you just want to know what happens next more than like you're scared.
Like a police procedural, I guess.
Kind of. Yeah.
But
it just gets progressively more deranged.
God, both times when that empty man comes up on the stairs in James's house, I squeal.
Yeah, return the
slab. And you just would do that.
Yeah, I gotta remind me to put that voice in somewhere when I say return the slab. Because it's such a good part of the Crow's Cowardly Dog. I love that one so much.
Yeah, you gotta put it in there. You gotta.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, that's pretty much the Empty Man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, nothing else.
What else there is to say about it?
Yeah.
It was good. Check it out if you like creepy movies that try to be cerebral but are just
not
confusing.
really.
The acting was pretty good.
Except for Garrett.
Okay,
Birch Cassidy was really bad.
He was not great. But I thought James was really good. I thought Amanda was really good.
Yeah, we didn't see any of the actors because I don't know actors, so I don't know if any of the people in there, besides the guy from Dodgeball, I don't know his name, but I didn't really know any of the people, so I guess it was kind of more under the radar actors.
Which I kind of like, because I feel like when movies just cast, like, everyone is super well known.
Yeah, apparently James the Somber was James Dale.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is. That's him.
Oh, that is him.
Oh, dude, I know. I've seen him and stuff. He is... I didn't realize that's that guy. So he was in the movie. I think he was in the Pacific. Yeah. So it was like. This is off on a tangent, but people might like it. They did the Band of Brothers, which is like the war movie for the European. This was for I did not realize that was him with his like beard and stuff. That's crazy.
He was in Iron Man 3.
He was in World War Z. Yeah, I didn't realize that was him. I know this. I've seen this guy before.
So he's not a main man.
He was in Lord of the Flies. Was he one of the children?
Oh, maybe.
I don't know. Who's Simon?
Oh yeah, he was a child.
Is that Simon? I've never seen Lord of the Flies.
Well, it's a book.
Oh yeah, but he didn't play the person in the book. Okay. He played him in the movie. Well, what do you mean?
I've never seen the movie, but I've read the book.
That's fair. All right,
it's real weird.
We've gone too far.
Oh well. So, anyways, thank you guys for tuning in, and our next podcast. Our next podcast is going to be the book Starfish by Peter Watts. It's really good. It's my favorite book. It has some very dark themes, so just word of warning.
I have not started reading it yet.
All right,
I'll get on that soon.
There's a lot of heavy stuff in it, but it's really good.
Great.
Well, you'll be fine. So yeah, thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
The Empty Man.
Oh, I hate that so much.